golle moƴƴuɗe jogiten Fulbe TV télévision nga gondeten golle Fulbe TV laatake golle moƴƴuɗe jogiten Fulbe TV télévision nga gondeten sayamen Fulbe TV wari kam am tawalde men Fulbe TV wari to men Fulbe
English major at the university, and I did not disrespect my dad, and for the first time I disagree with him that I'm not gonna study English, I'm gonna study politics. And I now began to tailor my career aspirations, but still not know how to career. Probably education-wise, because career is in two: professional career and educational. Even though educational career is supposed to influence what career path you take professional. And I decided to study political science. And once I studied political science, and I started reading about human rights, about democracy, about the First Republic, and part of which in my introduction I read about from sports writing and many others, like M. Sala and other scholars, I became interested in governance because I had a feeling that for me to pick up a career path, I need to have a purpose. And my number one purpose is for me that there is a flaw in our governance system, and we need to grow and build experts in that area to be able to ensure that our government is in the right footing. I decided that I am going to be concentrating on human rights, democracy, and governance. This is how my career aspiration began. And I built a passion along that. That whilst I pave an educational way, I also need to ensure that I become somebody that will start questioning that status quo before I get there. And I became an activist, parallel, which is not a career, but a passion, like I said in the beginning. And now when I set that up, what do I do next? I began to be serious, and that's the third part of developing type of career development, training and learning. If you decide to pick up a career, now you must not just say, and that's why I said being a politician is not a career, right? I began to study, learn, unlearn, and began to attain and then look for trainings that have to do with governance, human rights, and democracy. And that's why even my undergrad, all the electives I did were associated to governance, human rights, and democracy, different from the general course outlined for a political science student, and I began to build that up. And also, what do I do next was, because career doesn't fall from a vacuum. And then I saw somebody do that on Facebook yesterday, that you will ask people to look for a 10-year experience before they can get to a job. How do we have that experience when we are not given the opportunity in the first place? I began to explore. But also for me, because career can be brought, generally I focused on governance, human rights, and democracy. But quickly, I wanted to be marketable in my career goal. I knew that at that time the most fashionable, beautiful, but also marketable career was a specialized component of governance, which is transitional justice process. And I quickly started aligning myself with Gambia's transitional justice process and what it means and what it takes. I began to be an advocate for transitional justice. How many of us do that today? All what we want to do is go to university and graduate and want to begin a job. And also we just want to seek for a job because in the Gambia and in our educational system, we are not taught to build careers. We are told that you need to go to school to pass exams so that you get good grades and get a job. And that is why most of the time we are school, we are not educated. I'm sorry for the language. And it's very difficult if you're not educated to be able to build a career path. Now, why is career important? I've already discussed that most of the time, but career, if you have a career path, you stand out. You know, I will use myself as an example most frequently. When I was doing my master's program in Florence, so my master's program have a compulsory internship program, which is 12 credit hours that you have to do before you graduate. But my school being generous enough, they don't ask you to go and look for an institution and go there like many other. They list institutions, and you have to choose at least 3 institutions. Apply. You'll go through every process though, but you apply. If the institution reject you, the school doesn't have anything to do with that.
And I remember, because moving on also into the transitional justice, when I started doing research, here was my office actually. I think my desk was somewhere here when I was working for CRPD. I was a researcher for transitional justice and disinformation. And I decided to create disinformation as a problem that needs to be fixed as far as transitional justice process is concerned, referencing how deceptive, manipulative, and false narrative ran around 22 years of Jammeh's regime. So it was not just about transitional justice, it was about an information ecosystem. So I created a pathway of a career on that. And this was one of the reasons why I got my scholarship. When I was applying for my scholarship, I was right in this office. When I saw the opening, somebody sent it to me. My university colleague sent it to me and said he wanted a recommendation for that master's. I wrote a recommendation for him. When I look at the requirements for the master's, I thought my educational career, I am at a global stage of competing for that particular scholarship, because they are looking for somebody interested in transnational governance, transitional justice, but also a disinformation researcher. If anybody around the world was applying to say that I work for an institution that does fact-checking and disinformation, in my statement I'll put there, I founded an institution that does disinformation and fact-checking, and I employ people. So I stand a global test to compete for that scholarship. That is because I create a career path and connect it to a professional journey. And I applied, and exactly I got it. First Gambian to have ever been in that university. And when I went there, I understand that a lot of Gambians have been applying before me. Probably we just excited to apply at a open level. But if you have a particular career path, both professionally and education-wise, it's become easier to push yourself up on that career path and get opportunities that will position you in the global market, right? And that's why career development is actually very important. And there are steps to career development. But I started a story. So when I did that, I applied for my scholarship institution. That the institution that was sponsoring my scholarship is called the European Media and Information Fund. I applied that, and I applied what is called Oxfam. Oxfam is a democratic institution in Florence itself, and I applied for the Global Survivors Fund, one of the leading global transitional justice organizations in Geneva. I got all the three offers. Because if you read my CV, both professional and education-wise, there are professional experience connected to transitional justice, but transitional justice in a broader perspective have to do with democracy, and in between them stand information integrity. So I got all the three offers. It took me 1 week to respond because now I'm confused which one to take. But also I needed money, so Global Survivors Fund were paying money. So I decided to go ahead with the Global Survivors Fund. But because the Global Survivors Fund is among the 3 institutions that was paying money, 35 people from my class of 47 applied. I was the only Gambian in the class, and the only black that applied for that job, actually. If you understand the European global job market, you will understand what that means. But you know what happens to me? And Imran will talk about networking. Aside that I'm confident that my CV was working for me, when I used to work for ICTJ in the Gambia, that was International Center for Transitional Justice, my supervisor, general supervisor in New York, was in New York, what is his name again?
Is it Virginia?
No, not Virginia, the other one. I forgot the name. He's a guy. I never knew now he works for Global Survivors Fund. So when I went to my interview, the moment I clicked in to enter the call, somebody was like, "Is that Omar from the Gambia?" Yes. "Oh, you have left ICDJ. You're now doing your master's." Yes. The interview became more of a conversation around transitional justice and the work than questioning my qualifications and my career path, because I worked with him. He knows what I'm able to do, and he knows I'm in that field already. So we had a conversation. There were 2, and he told his colleague that he's leading youth transitional justice expert from Banjul. We had that conversation, and that was the end. And when I left that interview, I know I'm competing with 35 other people, but I knew I was going to get that job. I went to sleep and wait for the email to come to tell me, "Saibo, you're coming to Geneva for your internship." And that's what building career from an early stage means. And also what that does for you is, most of you today, if you have an interview for a job, you go to Google and search what to say. So somebody that also have one single experience will go there and then relate it to real life of her experience, his experience, the person stand a better chance. But how do we build this career path now, right? Step 1, conduct a self-assessment. Assess yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What can you do? What can you not do? What is your environment like? Because I keep saying this, anywhere I talk about career, that your career dreams are going to be killed and buried in this country because this country don't care about your career. The environment is not there. How many of you are studying general political science, but your first aspiration is just to go to university and get a degree in IR? Because they're not offering a degree in IR. How many people are general medical doctors today? They had supposed aim was to be a gynecologist or something else specialized, but now they have to go 8 years, 9 years, and go out to specialize 100 years when somebody can go and straight for 7 years and specialize in another country. But how does our job market look like? I'm glad that this is a Workers' Day and we are talking about this. Our job market is so close and monopolized that you, after you in fact seek for educational career, it becomes difficult to relate it to practical experience. Because it's either my uncle is a PS, otherwise I cannot become an intern at the Minister of Foreign Affairs, or Saibo is my friend, otherwise I cannot become a staff at InfoCheck, or Imran is my uncle, otherwise I cannot go work for Fantanka. This is what have been inducted in our workforce. From the government to the private sector to the civil society, we gather people we know. We don't give opportunity to people to learn simply because they're supposed to learn and they got the qualification and they got the passion and they need to do it. So people go to sleep at home and think they don't want a career when simply one man or woman sit out there and then discourage your career paths. And that is why self-assessment is fundamental and it's important. You must assess yourself. And in that assessment, you must assess your environment to know whether the career I am picking fit this environment, whether there are prospects and progressive ways that you're going to get to your career path. 2, get your research right, do research, and get on-hand experience, hands-on experience. Like I said, I gave my example with Global Survivors Fund and many other organizations that I work for. Most of the time is what the case is. I go there, I don't just go to Google and say, I apply for this job, I'm going for the interview, what do you say? I go there and instead of interview, I have conversations with them because you do research well, but also you have those experiences. So everyone must be able to have that experience on your career path for you to be able to stand a competitive global market. Otherwise, it becomes very difficult for you. Establish your goals and close your gaps. Now, everybody needs to set a goal. Like our primary school goals are, we want to be president. I've never been wanting to be president though. I always want to be somebody that will criticize the presidents. But you know, everybody wants to be something. Set a goal. At a time, we don't even know how to set goals. But today, you must set goals, and then these goals are not just long-term, both short-term and long-term goals. Like you want to be international relations officer, right? I said, do you want to be international relations officer? What is your short-term goal? Your short-term goal, are you focusing more on just the educational part of it to ensure that you study political science or international relations, or you want to double edge? Build your career this. Do you want to just be an officer in the embassy here, or you want... So what kind of diplomat do you want to be? What kind of level do you want to be? You need to set those goals. And in setting these goals, it's not just about what you want to be, but also the attitude that you build on. Like Jabu said, you need to build an attitude of discipline and integrity. How many of you go home? Let's say I've not been doing that, but I do that a lot now, that I go back home and look at my calendar. I was supposed to do A, B, and C today or this week, but I failed to do A, B, and C and hold myself accountable, because self-accountability is prominent to career building. And there is discipline, and there is integrity, right? So you need to do that one as well. Set your goals, set very smart goals. Do not be over-ambitious. If you are over-ambitious, you don't, and then do not raise somebody else's battle. My first target was I was going to finish my first degree at 24, and I wanted to get my first master's at 27, and I wanted to be at my PhD by now because I'm supposed to be 30, 31 at this point, and it did not go well because I had a 1-year break from the university. My colleagues graduated in 2022, and I graduated in 2023. And now there is a shift in that goal. That doesn't make you a failure. It only makes you learn and reset your button, because challenges are inevitable if you're going to build a sustainable, reasonable, and then, realistic career. So you set these goals, but the goals will always change based on circumstances and environment and then things that come up. But you need to set those goals, and you work towards those goals. And anytime along the way you have a challenge, do not say, oh my God, that's the end. That's never the end. That's the beginning of a new goal set to keep moving. Right? And apart from general goals, set your development goals. What are your development goals? What do you want to achieve? And then you work on that as well. Now, alongside setting these goals for your career, evaluate, adjust, and repeat. Always. You need to evaluate yourself. And then that's where I would repeat, self-accountability will come in. We find this very difficult, and that's why our public officials, we cannot even hold them accountable. I know you're going to tell me time is up. You gave me a very broader topic, so allow me to speak a little bit, right? But I'll come into an end. I think that's the last one, and we'll go to how to hone your experience. Evaluate yourself. Let's say, for example, what have I achieved as somebody that is interested in transitional justice, in democracy, in human rights, and all of that. Was this the target? Was this where I wanted to see myself today? Even though my long-term goal was, by the time I finish my master's, I want to run my own organization that contribute to the governance structure of this country, but I did that before I finished my degree. And that is running. That is a goal I set. Right? Even though I have a broader goal, which is very broad, that I want to fix this country. I don't know how long that goal will be achieved, but generally you need to set these goals and you need to evaluate yourself. I sometimes evaluate myself. I was like, still now I'll sit back and say, and then my latest goal was that when I finished my master's, I was exhausted. I need to sit for 1 year before I start looking for PhD. That was a goal. And I think since I graduated in June 13 this year, is going to be 1 year already, I've started exploring, yesterday night at No Sleep, I'm already started exploring my PhD options and opportunities. That's the goal. So you need to evaluate yourself, and you need to adjust to the realities on the ground, right? When I came, one of my goals was, okay, I have an organization. For me, it's not even about the money, because if I have a car to go to Fraba every day, what they will pay me is not enough for my fund. But I had a goal that I wanted to teach at the University of the Gambia, right? I sent my application, and then I was told that, somebody said I'm not gonna teach at the University of the Gambia, and that have shifted my goal. So aside now working for my institution, what other else things do I need to do? And you also face this thing that you have a goal, you have a career, and somebody from nowhere will tell you this career is not sustainable for you because we are not in the same lane. What do you do at that point? Get frustrated and all of that. So you set a goal. What was my goal to go to the University of the Gambia? It's not for the money. It's because I want to contribute to the professional and educational development of young people. Because if it is money, when they gave me the time, when they put me on the timetable, when they gave me courses, I was told I was going to be paid 17,000 for the whole year because I was going to go for a part-time. If I buy fuel every day to Faraba for a semester, 17,000 is done, right? So it wasn't about the money. But also you'll face these challenges, right? But just to conclude, the biggest challenge is now our cultural, societal beliefs that you want to be a lawyer and your mother will tell you, Subhanallah. You want to be a nurse, but your mother thinks you are a better teacher, right? You want to be a police officer, but so we need to first have an honest conversation with our parents about our career path, and that is why you're supposed to do self-assessment so that you are able to convince them. When my dad said I wasn't going to study political science, when we argued, he has only one point, he wasn't going to pay it for me. Okay, I registered for English language because I was a poor boy, I cannot pay university for myself. And I applied for higher education. The day I got the scholarship, that was it. They had not even informed my dad. I went to change my major first, then called him and said, was it about money? I got a scholarship, now I'm going to study political science. And sometimes they will be difficult, you disagree with them. Before my dad was late, nobody was proud than my dad if he saw me on TV, on platforms talking about politics and analyzing. My mom used to tell me that he will tell his friend that, ndingole. So sometimes you little bit disagree with them to take a path that you know is best for you, and they will just make them proud. don't take a part that will say wax naa la ko. But the moment you don't take a part that will say wax naa la ko, they will embrace that part. My dad was not proud of anybody more than me with all the things I was doing because I was studying politics and I was exposed to those things. But in the beginning, he never wanted me to do that. So career is a journey. It's not engente, it's not an event, it's a process. And it takes longer than you can expect it because it will come with gross challenges. And then these challenges, the more you overcome them, the more you establish yourself, the more you build that career. And I will conclude that pick up a mentor in career development is very important. Sometimes I will always argue that you cannot have mentors from far, but if you're able to read about them and read with them and read what they wrote, you are able to be that path with them. But pick up a mentor that you can speak to and speak to people that are in that career path. If you want to be a lawyer, speak to lawyers. Speak to lawyers. Like I see law students will tell me, Saibo, we look up to you, you are our mentor. I said, I'm not a lawyer. I can advise you from a general perspective, but for career-wise, speak to a lawyer. You want to be in the TJ field, talk to a TJ expert. And then career is not conclusive. Every day, I will run to Imran and say, you know, A, B, and C, let's do this. I remember when I was going to go to, in The Hague, as a youth expert on TJ, to support the serious framework on constitutional building, I ran to Imran. I was like, look, I'm invited to this place. Already I was on my master's. I could have just said, okay, I know what I'm doing and all. No. I contacted few people. This is what I'm going to do. So as you build career, engage people in that field, build network and connections, and that way your challenges become easier for you because people are there to always help and all of that. But regardless of the challenges, regardless of the career path you take, for every individual must be able to pick a career, and in this career you must build it professionally but also academically. And then do not follow the money on career. Money is important. But most of the time, I have a problem with university students will contact me and say, Saibo, we want to come to InfoCheck for internship. If I tell them we don't have a budget for interns, I don't hear from them again. Was it about the money or was it about the experience? My first days at ICDJ was a voluntary job. I was doing internship for free. But I was at the Global Survivors Fund because of ICDJ, and I built a career globally recognized because of that beginning for me. So it's not all about money sometimes. It's also about building that career in the focus that the money and then everything else that follows a career will come. To conclude, it's difficult to build a career in this country. But any one of you go home today, buy a note card, and start building a career. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saibo, for that wonderful presentation.
Fulbe TV.